Willie D Live.
I tell you something that you have heard.
What?
You've heard about these bond situations in Harris County where these people are mad at many of these judges in Harris County.
They're mad
for letting
people
these
out.
criminals off, with a bond, and they're saying that oftentimes when that happens, it makes the public unsafe.
Yeah.
Can we demystify some of this stuff?
Yeah.
About the bond.
Such a great question. So in 2019, you saw 19 Black women get elected to office.
Salute all 19. Boy,
all 19.
I was so proud.
Right. And I want to ask you if you had ever heard about bail and it being like a hot topic in the news.
Never.
Okay. I don't think I have to say anything after that. But once Democrats went into office, especially in the judiciary, there became this narrative that judges suddenly were not following the same law that had been in place before they were elected, because people who had been accused of crime, and I'm being very careful with my words by not saying criminals, people who had been accused of a crime were being let out on bond. So to first kind of educate like this, our populace and the people who watch, like most people are entitled to bail. Okay. The Constitution tells us that. And the Constitution actually lays out the offenses that the judge can deny bail for. And so the judge's role is to apply the law. We don't create the law. The law is created by the people in Austin, our legislatures. They give us the law. When we take office, we take an oath that we're going to apply the law fairly and we're going to follow it. And so when somebody is charged, let's say they're charged with murder, that murder could be on 8K surveillance footage. And we see it on the news. And you see this judge let this person out on bail. Well, what the news did not tell you is that the judge was required to set bail per the Constitution. Now, people may be upset about what amount you set, but typically for most offenses like murders, you're going to see a range of about $100,000 to maybe even depending on what the circumstances are, maybe to $100,000 to $500,000. Now, after the judge sets the bond amount, the judge can impose something called bond conditions. And that's what you think of like a GPS monitoring device or a curfew or an order to refrain from going to a certain location, essentially just orders. But if that person makes that bond, a judge then can't be responsible for what other crimes they go and commit, because the judge has done what? Followed the law. They've set the bond that the legislature told us to do, and the judge imposed bond conditions. Now, here is where the judge does have some latitude. If someone goes out and commits a new crime, because we can't predict what somebody is going to do, we can put every condition in the world, 24-hour home confinement. People will break their GPS device, right? Some people may be upset about the bond amounts, but I can tell you that between Democrat and Republican judges, these bond amounts are consistent.
What's the criteria for a bond amount?
So the legislature also tells us that, right? So we can look at the nature of the allegation. So what is this person charged with? So if we think of like something like a theft from a Kroger, you can probably you'll notice that those bond amounts are a little lower, right? Because it's a nonviolent offense. But there's also other criteria. You can look at their criminal history. You can look at how likely are they to reappear in court, because that's actually the purpose of bail. It's just to ensure your presence in court. That's the only thing. That is the essential purpose. Bail is to ensure that somebody appears and comes back to court. So you can also look at their ties to the community. So is this person from Louisiana, and did they just come here for a weekend and then they were charged with a crime? So those are some of the factors that we'll ask. And you can also consider what amount can this person afford? Now, all of these factors are not exhaustive, like one is not greater than the other, but it's just like a totality. And so when we hear from the prosecutor, when we hear from the defense attorney, all these factors, then the court will make a determination about what the bond amount should be. So let's say like there's somebody who I know charged in a certain court who has a capital murder charge out of Louisiana and also has been charged with capital murder here. That might be a case where bail is at a higher amount than most cases because of the nature of the allegations, right? But even then, if bail is to be denied, let's say no bond, there has to be a hearing. And that's what is not being addressed. The state has to request a hearing for bail to be denied. And so the state has to say, for capital murder cases, this is the case where we believe we are going to seek the death penalty. And not only do we believe that it's called a proof evident hearing. Not only do we believe that we're going to seek the death penalty, but this person is likely to receive the death penalty. And that's a case where after the judge hears certain evidence, they can deny bail. The judge can also deny bail for 60 days if somebody is out on bond and then they pick up a new case. That's another situation where a judge can deny bail. But it's not just, oh, you're charged with capital murder and suddenly it's no bond, or you're charged with theft and it's no bond. We have to follow the law. And so that's why it's frustrating when you hear on the news this criminal was let out. What do you mean they were let out? No, we set a bond, which the law told us that we had to do, and this person made the bond. And now, I don't know if you saw on the last election, there were a lot of constitutional amendments. I think there were 18. Mm-hmm. And one of those constitutional amendments said, should a judge be able to deny bail for certain violent offenses? And even still with that, there has to be a hearing that happens. And if the state doesn't request a hearing, we can't just deny bail on its face. There has to be certain factors that the court hears in the hearing to say, okay, bail should be denied in this circumstance.